the waiver.
Oh, okay, good thing.
And why we need the resolution is because it says here, and a copy of the resolution is attached. So
Now we're all set.
petition shall to never director of instruction from wanting. to-
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. Got a lot of experience with these.
With resolution?
Well, that relates to instructional programming, someone that's very knowledgeable.
Rivers of time. Rivers.
One for the lead party or whatever. Yes, sure. No.
Why?
Honestly,
Why?
because
In accordance with Board Procedure BP5, this meeting will be live streamed and recorded and can be viewed on the DASD YouTube channel. We'll go to item 2, which is a public hearing on request for DPI waiver pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 118.38.
Okay, and so Chris Smith is going to come join us as our 712 Director of Instruction, and we are going to discuss the requirement and then also where the district is at with our data around bilingual, bicultural programming and a recommendation from administration about our next step. So I'll turn it over to you to talk about trigger numbers and kind of what that means.
Yeah, so the state requires districts to, when districts reach a certain number of students in a specific language, multilingual students, they require them to have specific programming for bilingual, cultural. And those numbers are at K3, it's 10 or more students in a certain language, and this is by building. And then at grades 4 through 12, it's 20 students per building. And so currently this year, we did reach the numbers at Harvest, we have 24 students, and at high school, we have 27. So we are officially applying for the waiver currently because these numbers fluctuate year to year. And we feel really confident in the staffing that we currently have. So specifically at Harvest and high school, we have 2 multilingual teachers at both buildings, and we also have a bilingual education assistant at both those buildings that support our students with instruction. And then we also this year hired the bilingual family and student advocate position, who is supporting both of those buildings along with all of our others. So we feel really confident in the programming that we have and the staffing that we have. Although our multilingual teachers at those buildings don't have the bilingual certification, we know that our students are still getting rigorous instruction and they have the support through the EA and the bilingual student and family advocate. So this is something that we definitely want to monitor and will continue to monitor. And if this is something that continues to stay in this range, it's something that we'll look at in terms of our staffing. However, I will say that finding bilingual teachers is hard to find. Every time that we post for one of these positions, we put that as something that we are hopeful to get. But they're not all over. And so we try to hire the best people we can and then build in supports around them. So that's where we're currently at. And again, this is something we want to continue to monitor, but we don't want to make any sudden staffing changes before we really see this over the course of time. Have the ability to make a longer term decision.
A couple more things that just reassuring the district that our multilingual teachers are certified as English as second language teachers. So they have a rigorous certification. And then another component is just Chris and I have met with DPI, and it is not uncommon for districts to do this, to do a waiver for a period of time and watch and monitor the data. So it is something that DPI was, basically giving us some advice about what districts commonly do.
Yeah, I would say they recommended that this is a good step, again, to monitor. And again, we feel very strongly that we have a good amount of staffing, especially at those buildings having 2 multilingual teachers along the PEA to support those higher numbers, I think is really important. We're also incorporating a new class at the high school called Spanish Language Arts next year, which is an opportunity for our Spanish-speaking students to take a class with other fellow Spanish-speaking students to really dive in and learn the English language and get it through bilingual education. So that's something new that we're incorporating next year to help support this, which we're really excited about too.
What are our numbers in those buildings?
Yeah,
As far as you said, it was
yep. So I can share. So at the high school, we have 35 multilingual students.
Okay.
27 of them are Spanish speaking. And at Harvest, we have 36 multilingual students and 24 of them are Spanish speaking.
I just think I mean, there are two largest buildings, right,
Mhm.
capacity wise too. And you think like as those harvest students move through the system, right, that some of those other buildings are gonna be stretched during those years, what that looks like. But that's just, like you said, monitoring the numbers, kind of planning for that.
So an example of 2 years ago, the high school had 15. So they did, like, the trigger numbers were not met then. So again, if we were to move, right now, do have a couple staff that are certified bilingual, but they are not in those buildings. We would have to move staff. And that's never a retention
Yep.
attack. Like,
Yep.
that's the opposite of retaining staff. So that's one of the things we talk through with DPI is do we make that move? Do we, and that was where the suggestion comes to do the waiver and then monitor. And if the numbers continue, then it would be to, support our staff with getting the certification and or, continue to work to hire. So
How much different is the bilingual bicultural certification from the?
it's a pretty significant amount of coursework that they have to do. That's a good question. I can't remember how many credits, but it's a chunk of time and tuition money. Those are things that are all a component of that. And again, if we're providing a lot of the bilingual support. So that's what's important. And that's where DPI will assess, are we doing enough or not in the waiver? Because they have to approve it.
Yep.
Obviously.
And we have communicated with our multilingual families in those buildings.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Other questions for Chris or Rebecca?
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Okay.
Hearing none, I think we're good. Chris, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, it's 6:07, so it's approximately 6:15. We will call the meeting to order. Rebecca, was the meeting properly noticed?
Yes.
And can we have a roll call, please?
Sure, Jan Berg, Brian Coker.
Here.
Sue Esser,
Here.
Jeff Hahn, Linda Lenhart.
Here.
Bessie Lewis,
Present.
Gail Lovick,
Here.
Stephanie Sarr. Here. Megan Taylor.
Thank you. That brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Appropriate. That brings us to the mission, vision, and equity statement.
The mission of the DeForest Area School District is to provide an excellent education and engage, challenge, and inspire all students to pursue their full potential. The DeForest Area School District is committed to a culture that honors knowledge, respects individuals, demands excellence, fosters lifelong learning, and supports relationships that strengthen individuals, families, and community. Our equity statement is we believe every student can learn and deserves equitable access to high-quality, rigorous, and engaging learning opportunities. So we will ask questions, foster relationships, manage resources, and create systems to increase and sustain access, equity, and safety for all learners.
Thank you. That brings us to approving the agenda. Would somebody care to make that motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to possible board action regarding the waiver that we just heard about. So we're looking for a motion on the resolution, which is in the board packet, if anybody cares to read that. Anybody? Ooh.
I gotta find it. I can't read it.
I make a motion to
Thank you.
approve the resolution that would allow the DeForest Area School District to request from the Department of Public Instruction under Wisconsin statute 118.38, a waiver to the requirement of providing bilingual bicultural programming as established by Wisconsin statute 115.95.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second of that motion?
Second.
You have a second? All those in favor say aye.
I
Any opposed? That motion passes. That brings us to student presentation, and tonight we have the FFA Land Lab presentation here with us tonight, so we invite you guys to come on up. I think they're gonna pull up your presentation.
You guys want the sit right there? Is that okay? Yeah, works, yeah.
I'm gonna, yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
My name is Paige, and I was the president of our Divorce FFA chapter for the 2025-2026 school year.
I'm Monroe. I'm the Sentinel, the 2026-2027 school year.
My name is Mackenzie Meyer. I'm the secretary for the 2025-2026 school year, and I'll be the president for this upcoming school year. So today we're going to talk to you guys about our FFA Land Lab from last year, give you a little overview about how we did and everything. So the basics of Land Lab, we have FFA members have been managing the acreage of the DeForest Area School District for over 25 years. Members meet weekly throughout the summer months to manage risk, which is like tracking markets, forward contracting, and monitor the costs. We watch crop development, learn from professionals, and maintain pest and weed problems. The goal of Land Lab is to educate non-traditional as well as traditional students about production agriculture. It allows for hands-on learning for all students. It teaches the full range of financial management and crop management. It raises funds for our chapter, and the Land Lab is the bridge between the gap between the production agriculture and our urban students.
So we did test plots on our land lab. It's study and research. We researched varieties, treatments, and population of seeds. It helps like learn about efficiency and cost. We tried new technology. We had 2 trials, no-till corn planted into winter rye stubble. The nitrogen rate applied at 43 gallons an acre versus 35 gallons an acre. Our fall, winter, spring, like land lab cover crop was winter rye. We had planted it last fall to hold soil and promote soil health. And the cover crop allowed additional education on soil health and carbon management. And the crop sold standing to a local farm for cattle feed. May 15th, we no-till planted in Totem Creek. We did 2 varieties, Pioneer and DeKalb. Fertilizer was applied at planting of 13 gallons of 85% nitrogen, 15% sulfur, and 1 quart of zinc an acre. Planting population was 36,000 seeds an acre. And May 17th, we planted at Quick Trip in the Gray Road plot. No-till into rye stubble, different type of Pioneer and DeKalb variety than Totem Creek, which was a shorter day maturity because of the difference in planting dates.
All right, so this last summer, our Land Lab held meetings every Tuesday, starting at Windsor Breads in Windsor. And our average attendance at these meetings was about 9 members per week. These meetings allowed for our members to track the growth of our corn and learn about a variety of weeds, weather damage, insects, and nutrients. And then in 2025, we also experimented with painting the stalks to help us track that rate of growth. Here are some pictures from those meetings. You can see to the very far left, we cut open corn stalk to track the points of growth and kind of look at how the plant was doing over that time period. Some other pictures, you can see us measuring the stalks and calculating how the growth had changed. And we picked a couple ears of corn to count the kernels, and that kind of tells us how the crop was yielding. So for harvest in 2025, it happened on October 24th and 25th, and it was harvested by Spencer Trinan. Our Gray Road field plot harvested 225.76 bushels per acre with a 17.95% moisture. Our harvest intermediate field had 216.11 bushels per acre with 16.23% moisture. And our Portage Road field had 226.64 bushels per acre and an 18.86% moisture. You can see in some of those pictures the difference in yields. The green and yellow spots are where our yields are a little bit better, and the red spots are where our yields weren't as good. You can see like around the edges where other trees and plants were, the yields just weren't as great because the plants were competing with other plants. And then you can also see a line up in the Gray Road plot where some of our equipment drove, so the soil was a little bit more compacted. Same with the harvest plot with the construction, soil was compacted in certain areas, so it didn't grow as well there. But our average rate of growth daily was about 3.2 inches per day. So for our forward contracts, we like to we check the prices every week throughout the summer and we try to look at the highest price. You can see that back in February, the prices reached $4 and above. And throughout the whole summer, we have kept checking and we locked in whenever got closer to $4. Never really quite got there, but it got close enough. It's gonna get as good as it was gonna get. So the average price that we locked in at was $3.99. And then for our full financial report, so for the spring field work, which is paying our farmer to come out and till, the cost was $3,780. We bought 2 varieties of corn to like test which would do better. So the Pioneer variety cost $6,160 and the Nutrient variety cost $5,073.57. The crop protection, which is like spraying it, cost $5,430.70. Fertilizer for the spring, that costed $9,183.02. And in the fall, the cost for that was $9,105.13. Fertilizer prices were kind of up from last year. The application of the fertilizer and other sprays, that cost us a total of $1,359.01. And then to harvest it, it costed us $8,066.79. And then for the crop insurance, that was a total of $885.94. So our total expenses from the 2025 year was $48,963.16. And then for our income that we made this year, from the forward contract bushels that we sold, we made $39,369.90. And from the bushels that were not part of the forward contracting, we made $32,144.84 sorry. And then the FSA payments, those are like subsidies. From that, we got $4,372.40. And because we had the cover crop of rye, we got payment from that as well. So we made an extra $2,550 off of that, which came out to a total income of $73,437.14. So in the grand scheme of things, our total net income was $29,473.98, and $8,892.19 of that will go to the district. So for our land lab profits, we made $20,631.79. A lot of numbers.
A lot of numbers.
So now here is just our FFA year in review, covering what we've done throughout the past year.
So membership, we had 791 members, 25 members from 12 families actually live on farms. National FFA requires goals in 3 different areas: strengthening agriculture, building community, and growing leaders.
So for our portion of strengthening agriculture, we do things like petting zoos, our fall day on the farm, which is 4th through 12th grade, our spring day on the farm, which is primarily 4th grade, and then we go and read to elementary schools. So when we do that, we have 344 books given to every 3rd grader in the district, and our FFA alumni sponsors the cost of these books so that they can all take them home. Next, we do building communities. So we put together something called community kits. They're free to the community. They're just an activity. This year we put together 469 kits. We do other recreational activities. We do a buy local scavenger hunt where people can go to different local stores around Forest and scan a QR code just to support local businesses. And then we have one of our biggest events. It's DFO Fights Hunger, which happened on March 14th this year. We packaged 52,028 meals and we raised $16,000 for this event this year. And then for our growing leaders portion, that's pretty much just our conferences. We go to tons of conferences throughout the year. We have FLWs, Fire Conference, National and State Convention, halftime. The list goes on and on of conferences that we go to. Our CDEs are another big part of the growing leaders component. This year we had 68 members compete. 5 teams competed at the state competition and 2 teams competed at state Envirothon, which is a really cool experience. I think that was our first year going to that. So we had a lot of fun. And then our leadership development events are also a really big thing that students are into. We had a lot of students advance onto sectionals, and we got the privilege of hosting districts at DeForest this year. So very cool. And this year in 2025, we made a lot of history within our chapter. We had the National 3-Star Chapter Award in 2025, Wisconsin State second runner-up for our overall chapter, which means that we were the top 130 we were the top 130 chapters in the national FFA. So that's a really big accomplishment. We were also the first at state FFA officer in 41 years, Mr. Sam Mel. He has graduated a couple years ago and he's a state officer this year. He's one of our vice presidents at the state level. The DeForest Agriculture Program is named Outstanding Program of Section 5, which is another really big achievement within FFA. And Ms. Betcher back here was elected to be the WAAE president-elect, which is a really big privilege for her. So, do you guys have any questions about anything we said today?
What is the WAAE? Wisconsin Association of Agricultural Educators.
You guys track, like, I know you give us yearly updates every year, but track from year to year where your yields and your profits and losses are?
We do have record of all of that, but I don't know off the top of my head, like the differences between them.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we have this presentation.
From every year.
Since I came here. So
Yeah.
At least 21 years of records.
Yeah. I mean, they knew that the prices for fertilizers went up, right? And how does that affect? I mean, yeah.
We had a discussion on that even just like, we continue to do the rotation of corn and soy, so it's hard to like compare, but if we pull back, fertilizers triple what it was 3 years ago.
Right.
So.
Yep. Do you guys get any credit for lab work during the summer, or how does that work for you guys?
Like for school?
Yeah.
No, this is just strictly for fun, to learn, volunteer.
But wouldn't that be interesting?
That's a good question.
It
Yeah.
is just a question.
Sorry.
It's applied learning.
Insinuation.
Their eyes lit up.
Yeah. Yes.
Is there something I didn't know about? But-
We did look at, could it be a summer school program?
Yeah.
Years ago, but it wasn't quite fitting because of like the attendance requirements. and
Gotcha.
stuff, and we'd have to have a little more supplementation outside of just one day a week.
Gotcha.
The land lab chairs do receive a scholarship.
Okay.
So this year Paige was our land lab chair, and next year we've got this duo of Monroe and Kenzie. So they do earn scholarships by completing. year 2.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work that goes into that all summer, but it's also a lot of learning. So it's great. Just a question. Other questions for the group?
With the experiments you did, I know you changed the amount of fertilizer and you did no-till on part of it. Didn't look like the yields were significantly different across the fields, but I guess what what was your conclusion about those experiments?
We'll go back to the graph. We did it on, was it the gray road plot? Or portage road plot. So every other, you can see like the green and yellow. Every other was like a different amount of fertilizer and it improved a small amount, not like crazy, but it was a small amount better than nitrogen.
Like 1.3 bushels of
At the higher cost of fertilizers that pay back?
that does not pay back. And I mean, it wasn't, we didn't want to try a gigantic difference just because of the cost.
Right. And then the no-till, any insights on that?
What about the insights, Monroe, when we talked about with the gray road into the stubble in the yield comparison?
I think we lost like a bushel overall, but we made more profit from the fall rye that was there. So it like worked in the end.
I can't finish.
Because your overall membership is incredible, and I'm wondering if it's continuing to increase, and how many of the members are active over the course of a year?
It definitely has been increasing, especially with implementing the middle schoolers. It was required for every 7th and 8th grader to take an ag class, or 7th grader, sorry. And so that definitely raised our numbers quite a bit. But the activity of our members is definitely not as high as the amount of members that we have. So we try to like figure out who is more active and who's not. But next year, I don't believe it's in our, is it still a requirement next year? So our number might drop again.
So it's a core group who do a lot, but everybody's welcome to participate
Yes.
and encouraged.
Yes, always, always.
Paige, what are your plans for next year?
I am going to UW-Madison. I'm going to major in political science on a pre-law track. So hopefully to be a lawyer. Thank you.
We keep preaching agriculture lawyer.
Egg lawyer. I like it. Activist, I mean, yeah.
Are you farming families? Are you,
I'm not.
you're not, okay. So what was your, like, was there something about the project that surprised you? Was there something that's like, oh, I didn't know that, or, you know what I mean? That, was there any part of the lab land project that's like, was, that you learned that was like, I didn't know that, I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting?
Well, for me, I've never worked on a farm. I don't have any background in farming or anything. So it was really cool. Like I would get a call from our farmer Spencer and he would say, hey, I'm harvesting. Do you want to ride along? So I ride along with him while he's harvesting and he would tell me about everything, like the monitor is showing him everything that he can see, what all the numbers mean, this and that. And it was just really cool to learn like every little detail that goes into that.
Mhm.
And I also got to plant with him as well. So I really got to see it from start to finish, which like I would have never had the opportunity to do that if it were not for this land lab. So it was just honestly really cool. It really got me interested and intrigued. Like I wish I could have more opportunity to be part of that and do that more.
Can't believe the land lab has been going on for 25 years. That's just amazing in and of itself.
We were actually just looking at, we're doing a little bit of cleaning and we've got all of Qualheim's manila folders. The years and
Opened up the dust
she asked
drawer.
if we needed them and I'm like,
I was like, I know where
Stuff
you
someday maybe we'll go back through and be like, look, we only averaged 96 bushels an acre of corn in 1994. Who knew?
You could do a fun fact.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Okay, snap trivia right there.
So how many high schools have this kind of program?
This kind of land lab,
Yeah,
it's our size, we're probably either the largest or the second largest in the state. The only one I think could maybe rally is like Randolph Cambria Friesland still has significant acreage. But as for like the programming and how we work it out and how the history of it, I think we're
very cool.
like that.
Which is part of the reason for all of the awards. And congratulations, I mean, to all of you and to you for being present.
Yeah, there's a lot of success.
A lot,
happening.
absolutely.
Yep. Any other questions for the group? No? Okay. Thank you so much for coming in.
Of course, thank you for your time. Portion of our land lab funds do go back to the district. So here I have a check for you guys.
I'll take that.
Keyboard.
Speaking of.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Yes.
Did you? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to board business and possible board action. Item A, report and possible approval of the 25-26 budget proposed amendments. Sorry.
That's not bad omen. Lightning and thunder. Okay, so in your board packets, I provided a budget amendment document. I'm not gonna read through this line by line, but I do want to point out a few things in this document, just because I think they're more notable things, just to make sure that the board's aware of. And I do want to start with, I received some news today on special education aid, actually the amount we're going to get for this year. And it's good. It's better than it was when this draft came out. Actually, I would say for between October and now, for the budget amendment that's in front of you, I believe that we're going to be more in the middle of the two, probably more towards where we were back in October. And the reason being is because special education originally was estimated at 42%, then it was estimated at 35% by DPI. And today I found out it was more like 38.38%. So quite a bit of difference, throughout the year. Which made me really nervous because not knowing those numbers until the last days of the year is a little problematic because
We're living a budget that we were told was going to
yes,
be funded by one set of funds and then taken
Yeah.
away,
yeah,
changed,
yeah.
middle of the year.
We're still less than what the state biennial budget had predicted, quite a bit less. But it could have been a lot worse with what the original estimates were from DPI. So I'm glad that at least it went a little bit closer. And that just, I think, shows too that there's so many unknowns throughout the whole year that just try to do my best to get as close as I can, but sometimes it's just I don't know what I don't know. But I try to get with the best educated guess I can do at the time, and sometimes it's close, sometimes I could do a little better. But I think that's overall positive news compared to this budget amendment. I do think we're going to end up a little bit closer to the October numbers. So that was a special ed discussion. Also related to special ed, high cost aid is going to be higher than what I was including in here as well. The percent just got released as well. I don't know the exact dollar amount yet, but with my calculating what I think we're going to be at, I'm pretty confident in saying that it's going to be higher than what I was estimating in the budget document. Some other things I wanted to just make sure that I just spoke about because I find them more significant. Some fluctuations in the budget. Overall, in the budget summary, when you look at the revenues and expenses, you'll find that there's a column that shows where we were back in October. And then the 25-26 budget is where I'm predicting we are at the current moment. Again, just a budget, everything's going to change. And then I also included budget notes on the side that correlate with the narrative, just to provide a little more description why that number changed. So some changes I just wanted to go through quickly. On the revenue side, interest earnings this year have just continued to go down. The rate of interest earnings has unfortunately not been what it was a few years ago. So I needed to account for that. I wasn't as conservative as I should have been, I think, in my estimations for revenue this year. So that number went lower. Also on revenue side, we did receive our literacy curriculum grant. We weren't sure what we were going to get, when we were going to get it, and we received it, which was great. Federal sources have fluctuated quite a bit this year. It's really hard to predict, in particular, Medicaid revenue from the federal government, because we're always working like a few years back. This year, this month, I just got a check for Medicaid reimbursement for the 23-24 school year. So there's just such a delay in that. I hate to count on the money and then not get the money. And so there were some changes with that, both for Fund 10, because when it's previous years, we put it in Fund 10. If it's current year students, we put it in Fund 27. So you'll see some fluctuation in both of those funds. Already talked about the aid. Fund 46, there are some more transfers we would like to do into Fund 46. We have a couple of like our building budgets or our technology budget or just some other budgets that kind of want to start saving up more for some long range capital projects. Fund 46 is long range capital, but also long range like big technology projects can be in there. And so as we know that we're going to have some big things coming up down the road, we want to try to save as much as we can. If there's some budgets that we're coming in a little bit under, we're hoping to save that money then specifically for the projects down the road. And on expense side, there were some fluctuations there. Staffing's always, there can be unknowns depending if people come, people go. If we have more maternity leaves or maternity leaves and just staffing leaves in general, I mean, that can really cause differences in our sub cost. Try to do the best I can estimate, but there's been some fluctuations. I would say at all the buildings, some of the buildings went down in budget estimates and some went up. High school was more notable this year, and that was for a variety of reasons. Sub changes in personnel. I feel like I could have done better estimating co-curricular costs. And just as overall, it came in higher than what I anticipated, where some of the other buildings like elementary came in lower than I anticipated. Let's see. Technology as a whole, we did a lot of catching up this year with our new director, Russ Tronson. A new set of eyes and just really the whole team just being on top of, really getting us back to where we needed to be. We had some old technology that were running Windows 10 and those no longer can be updated. So we just had a lot of technology catch up that occurred or needed to occur throughout the year. Other than that, the other things I feel were more kind of less significant in the budget numbers, and I'm not going to read through all of them, but certainly if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer what I can.
It's for Kathy. My only note was the special ed, which you've covered multiple times. It's just, I think it's one that's hard to understand when we get promised something and then you're like, well, why didn't we get that, right? And so I just, I don't think that cost is going to go down. I think it's going to continue to rise, and how we combat that as a district to continue to support all of our student needs is just something that I think like I have in the back of my mind, like that money has to come from somewhere else then. And what that means, I guess.
Speaks to the need for advocacy from the board and administration to make sure our legislators understand the impact on programming. Because again, an $850,000 swing mid-year is
a big impact.
It's a big impact.
It's a big impact.
So it's one of those things that the state has to help figure this out for us, with us.
Is the federal money also fluctuating in terms of the child count and what we expect and what we actually get?
I would say yes. Compared to the increases we used to get over the years, compared to our growth, I feel like there is it's slowed down in the allocations that we're getting. I I definitely haven't seen the rate of increase in federal, specifically IDA flow through that we used to see over the years. So it'll be interesting what time does to that. I'm hoping that more money at the federal level will be funded into those programs because that also could help offset the cost of running special education.
As far as other federal funding, Title II, professional development for teachers or for staff is definitely far lower than it's been in the past. And that's taking a hit then because we of course want to provide professional development for our teachers, then it's coming out of a different funds, right?
And the proportion of those, like we've grown quite a bit, and we're getting less than we got 10 years ago, basically on that.
So where are the federal funds to schools coming from now? I mean, is the Department of Education still, it's still enough functioning to do that? But there was the talk about moving that to different departments. Is that correct?
I'm not quite sure
Yeah.
where if that has
happened or
gone, but I know what you're talking about.
right
But I can't say for certain.
where it is in transition or okay.
And we work mostly, the federal government works with our Wisconsin local DPI. So that's who we're working with when we do claims and we get our allocations. But I know that they do work closely with the federal government.
When you, as far as expenditures, staffing estimates, does that include EduStaff in that, like the cost of EduStaff for our sub?
Yes.
Okay.
We have it broken down per building.
Okay.
We have to recognize our cost to as close as we can by building level.
Other questions for Kathy?
The notes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I appreciated that you referenced October too, because like trying to remember where we were, not that we couldn't go back to that report, but it's nice to see, you know, where we were and where we are now and the difference.
It's not here on that date.
All right, well, I think we're looking for a possible approval on those amendments.
Make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the district budget.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Kathy. That brings us to item B, presentation and possible approval of board policy OE3, treatment of community stakeholders. We got another Kathy.
Okay, turning it over to Kathy.
Hey, good to be here. So I'm going to be going through, I'll start with OE3, the treatment of community stakeholders, and I used this collection of slides to kind of pull out some of the highlights of the more formal report that you received in the packet. So OE3 references Rebecca's work in maintaining an organizational culture that treats our community stakeholders with respect, dignity, and courtesy. The benchmarks supporting this operational expectation, all the benchmarks are listed on this slide here, and all of them were met over this school year. I pulled out again some of the evidence that were included in the report, the items. There were no formal written complaints related to unauthorized release of confidential information. There were no formal written complaints that were indicating that the district failed to honor their preferences that were expressed regarding their students not being published. Our tech department confirmed that there were also no outside or documented incidents related to an outside entity gaining access to our district data. There were 7 formal written complaints that were received over the course of the school year, and all 7 of those complainants received the required acknowledgement of receipt and notice of the process regarding that resolution within 5 days. And again, the complaints were investigated and resolved, or are currently in the process of being resolved in accordance with all the applicable state and federal laws, as well as our district policies. Some key evidence that I pulled out, some things that were really happy and continue to be proud of. We received 22% of our students were represented in responses to our family engagement survey. This is down a little bit from the previous year. Last year, we were at 25.6. This year, we were just over 22% at 22.3. It's just an area that I continue to kind of puzzle over every year. And actually in talking with our Dane County counterparts in other districts, they're seeing the similar thing. We're actually either right at the kind of that same level as our other districts, or even a little higher, with the exception of Middleton, although I did learn that they offer some swag as a perk to, maybe try to entice people to communicate their survey. So maybe something that we can consider. Let's see, so about 80% in areas related to organizational culture is what we received from our families. We do still maintain the contact DASD option for stakeholders. We received 24 contacts through that opportunity. And similar to the complaints, we always respond and acknowledge those people who reach out in various ways. Sometimes they just don't know who to contact. And so I monitor those that come in and then make sure it gets out to the person who can best respond. And then, Rebecca, did you want to?
Yeah, I will talk about the open records log. This is actually Anne's work. She developed a process for this. This became a new measure. Since last year, beautiful process that we work through as records requests come in. We have had over 60, probably 67 or so in a year.
2 more I didn't add today.
Okay,
but
so
they'll get in there. Add 2 more.
And so some of the things that her work is that she tracks that, she and I meet, we assign it to staff. We make sure that people get the information in a timely manner. We do charge. All of this is new work for us. Like, we haven't had this many records requests. And so some districts hire people to do this, and we really want to not have to put money on this. We would like that to be with kids. So I appreciate that Anne built this process for us, and we are working through it. And I just say kudos to you, and I appreciate it. And it's important that we have transparency and we provide things to our public, but it's important the board knows too that this is a taxing component to the position. And we're working through it. So back to the presentation.
Yeah, so slide 7.
Thank you.
So slide 7 is some follow-up on what I shared with you last year that we were going to be working on this year. And that was related to how we build our do not publish list for our students. So there have been several different iterations that families are presented with during the annual online enrollment or online registration process, because it's really important that we get this right. We know that there are families, for a variety of different reasons, do not want their children identified publicly. And it's, we certainly want to respect that and honor it. It's sometimes it's safety related, that we don't want to identify children. So it just kind of seemed that we weren't quite getting the right students. If you look at the number of students in 23-24, there were 110 students that were on the do not publish list, which is significant in a district our size. But again, if parents, when they were asked yes, no, there seemed to maybe be some confusion, because then we hear from them, well, I just meant this, not that, or they can be in the yearbook, but I don't want them here. But because it was so important to get right, what was happening, back in 23-24, and then even continuing in 24-25, is secretaries at each building were then getting the list of the students in their building and then following up with all of those families just to confirm. Now, are you sure you meant this? Or, and so that's, I appreciated their effort to try to make sure we had the list accurate, but it also was, we don't follow up on other responses that families are making. And so I just felt like we must not be asking it in a way that's that's clear enough for our families that they understand what they're responding to. And so the risk was, with that many students, the risk almost became, of course, we didn't want to publish students who didn't want to be published, but we are also risking, and we would sometimes hear, we weren't publishing students when families really meant for them to be published, right? Because they didn't really understand what they were saying no to. So I think we've maybe got it right now. So this year, we finally kind of landed. Each year we've changed it a little bit. And this year, during the annual registration process, families, it's defined for them, clearly talks about what this means, what directory data is, how they can read the full policy, what they're actually saying yes or no to. And then there's an extra step for the families that truly do not want their children published to email me to let me know. And so it is an extra step for those families. But what I have found with those 22 students that are on the list currently, those are families that really want to be on there for a variety of reasons. And in some cases, they're families that I'm hearing from even before they're suggested or reminded to reach out to me. So I feel good about this because it is really important. And when there's 22 students on a list versus over 100 students on a list, it's much easier for, teachers to be very clear about who in their classrooms on the list at each building. They're able to, pay extra attention and be very clear about who's on the list. And again, with 22 students, when I hear from those families, they're reaching out directly with their child's name, their teacher's name, and then I reach out to both the school office and those children's teachers to say, just so you know, these students have been added to the do not publish list, just taking that extra step. So that was one action plan item that we worked on over the past year that I feel good about, and like I said, I think we finally got the wording right that people are understanding. And then as we look ahead to next school year, one thing we're wondering about, because we do so value the input we get from our families on, what their experience is like, both as parents and for their children, as our students. We really want to make sure that we're engaging with enough of them as we can. And so even though we're still kind of in that suggested range, they suggest, 20 to 30% of families in a family survey in a school district, is still good if you know that percentage you're getting is representative of your whole school community at large. The more that we can engage with them, the better. So a couple of things that we're going to look at is maybe reducing the length of the survey. This OE only specifically looks at certain areas of organizational culture. So maybe do we focus on just those questions? That might be an option. Is it the length that's maybe keeping people from completing it? We're going to explore that a little bit this year. And then we're also considering maybe instead of just doing one big survey each year, maybe we do smaller, more pulse kind of checkpoints, dipsticking surveys throughout the year. Because again, the information is important to us. We value the information we get from the survey, but we want to make sure that we're getting a good representation of our school community. One other thing that we're going to be looking to explore next year with Parent Square, in addition to the two-way communication and all the benefits that platform has allowed for us this year as it relates specifically to communication, there also are some really nice ways to send things to families securely that is saving staff time, is saving resources in terms of printing, stuffing, envelopes, postage, And then again, because we're using Parent Square, if we're sending things like student fee statements or overdue library notices, or even we're starting to send some standardized test score reports. We did the pre-ACT score this year to try it out. When we're sending them through Parent Square, we know families are receiving them in the way they've told us they prefer to receive communication. So if we were maybe previously mailing families a student fee statement, we were counting on the families getting it in the mail and opening it, and then seeing it's a fee statement, asking them to go log in, access our online payment system, and make a payment. Okay, so, and what we found, so we started sending student fee statements in February of this year. So we just have a few months information so far, but so the first month we did it last year in February 2025, using the previous method. However, the schools chose to send them out. Some would mail, some would send through Skyward. Last February, those fee statements brought in 19,397. And this February, sending them through Parent Square brought in 35,543. So, and the amounts were comparable, you know, in terms of like the amount that's out there that could be brought in. But I think what this showed us, and as kind of played out each month, is it's not that all of our families were in a position that they couldn't meet the need, that their fees that they owed the district. We just weren't asking for them in a way that was very user friendly. And so now this way, they get it on their phone, in the app, as a text, as an email. They can link right to the payment portal. And so it's been really exciting. And I think as families have gotten used to receiving communications through Parent Square, there's some other ways that we can also communicate similar information that we're going to start exploring next year.
So Kathy has shared the overall metrics from the report, and for that reason, we have presented it as in compliance.
Thank you. Would somebody care to make a motion on the report?
Motion accepted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We now own the report. We can ask Kathy or Rebecca any questions.
I have a few questions. So do we know how many hours were spent on the ones that we've gotten so far? Like how much time? And then how much is charged per hour? Or does it depend on who is gathering that information and what percentage of people are actually paying? You know.
Let Anne address that, yeah.
So we can only charge for location. So the time it takes to find the records and retrieve the records. Some of the records need redaction. We cannot charge for redaction. So the only thing that we can charge for is that. And if there were copies requested and postage or things that we can also.
You can also not charge for legal fees, which sometimes we need to have a lawyer review if we can divulge the record or not. Like, 'cause, I mean, I have some training in this, but most, you know, I definitely don't want to put the district in a liable situation. So we can't charge for that either. So it's another expense that the district incurs with records requests.
I think in that log you put in there when something was charged.
Yes,
correct?
yes. You
So if
could
you
look in
that log,
there and you
should
can
put
see
in
the
there.
response where we, and then sometimes you'll see that there's like 4 or 5 links because we're going back and forth and we're asking people to, you know, like we're giving them the fee. And then sometimes their request is too broad. And so we'll ask them to, you know, to narrow that down. We're finding we get a lot of vendor requests and that actually creates a lot of work for Kathy Davis's department.
The ones that are probably can be the trickiest are they're coming anonymously. And so then we don't know, we're trying to help the person get the answer, but they won't talk to us. So we had one come in last week where it wasn't anonymous and I was able to call the person and have a conversation and we're able to like get really clear on what they want, and it was like so much more simple. So the anonymous ones are tricky because we can't actually get to a spot where we actually are giving them what they want, because sometimes it's a whole lot of questions and things like that. So we're definitely navigating. Anne's built a bunch of templates about how to answer. We've built them together, and yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been a team effort. And I mean that the anonymous requests are interesting because that's like the sort of new learning, because there were people in my role that said, well, you can't respond. Why would you have to respond to an anonymous request? But that's the law. We legally have to respond. So
How do you know? So that
they
tell you
use, a
where to
lot
send
of
it?
them use a Peloton kind of some kind of, or Proton, maybe that was it. I'm sorry. Yeah, Proton Mail, which can,
Well, and most
Which
of it is
does-
I offered to call or meet with them or
Right.
talk it through, and then they
They
won't. So that's how we.
yeah,
that's-
or you'll see like one of the most recent ones, their signature was DeForest Records. So it's not a name, so we don't know. It's just
Right.
DeForest Records, and then they had a made up email, so.
It's really hard.
I love, I mean, it was on my notes. I love that indicator,
Mhm.
because we don't realize how much time and money is spent behind the scenes on that. And I know and appreciate the work that goes into keeping up, not just tracking it, but responding, right? It was a process, and you guys reached out to other districts and
Yeah.
found something that worked, and now we have a process in place that makes sense and promotes transparency and
Yeah. To your que-
isn't.
Yeah, to your question about hours, Gussie, I like some take lots of hours, 3-4 hours, to go through records. And then others are a little bit easier to answer, but 69.
And it does
requests
impact all departments. I mean, Kathy
Mhm.
Davis's, the business office gets highly impacted when a vendor wants all, all whatever, something, and she has to dig through and find the exact contracts. And I know Nate gets these as well. So it's one of those things that we're navigating as a district, no different than any other district. It's just a new task for all districts. And again, other districts hire, and I appreciate that the board was open to the idea of putting this as an indicator, because obviously we'll want to watch for it in capacity building. Is if we can't keep control of it and do the work, the normal work, we will have to look at some kind of administrative support for records requests, but we're hoping to not do that. We want to keep our money with students and.
But as it is right now, it's costing us. to
Oh,
do
yeah.
these things.
It will
We
always
gotta-
cost.
It's
Yeah.
really important that
Right.
that families know that, and the public knows.
Yep.
This costs the district money
Yes.
to do that, instead of being able to spend that money
Yes.
on our students.
I'm learning.
Yes, on
Yep.
learning the time and the money, this is costing us, even if we haven't actually hired someone,
Right.
to do it yet. So that's a big impact.
So going along with this, I know that part of the reason we talk about making this an indicator is because, like you said, it's not that there weren't open record requests before, but the volume has gone up significantly.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the volume from previous years, what would you estimate? Like, are we like 4 times what we were before?
Way more
More
than
than
that.
10 times
Yeah.
more, probably, I would say.
And that's just in my superintendency. I would go
Mhm.
back 5 years
Oh,
or 10 years.
There would be
You
none,
didn't-
in a year,
It was
very
pretty common
rare.
to
That
have
was,
nothing.
that was very, very rare.
It's comforting to know that it's not just our district.
Correct.
It's not.
But
It's
at
the
the
way
same
of-
time, it's not comforting to know that, right?
It's a trend.
It is a
It's
trend.
part of I think, where it's unfortunate that there isn't that let's just talk about your questions. Like,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
The face-to-face
Yeah.
conversation or the phone call.
yeah, and I'm happy to talk through things, but that's always.
I think a lot of them too are in response to something that might be happening in a different district that they hear on the news, and then they want
They want to know.
to check on us. So,
Yeah.
Kathy, in regards to the survey, when was the last time we did like significant edits on the questions that were asked?
Yeah, it was
So,
before.
okay, okay.
This
It was-
was my 4th year.
It was my first year as director of instruction, because I remember going through the work with Debbie and the director team. So it was about 2018.
Okay.
Because we took a lot of, grabbed a lot of questions about communication about learning. That was a big focus that was, yeah, the intense work.
Okay, just curious on that. I gotta think about which one this is. The complaint, when we said we had 7 complaints. For me, and I don't know how we would display this, I guess I'll say, but it'd be nice to see that evidence in some sort of something rather than just saying we received 7 and taking people's word for it and that they were actionable, I guess I'll say. So some sort of evidence other than, I don't know how, I don't want names, I'm just saying like.
So Nate, do you want to speak to like how you keep track of a little bit about the complaint? Because you unfortunately in your role get to get those.
Same thing, even the definition of the, it appears in 3 different monitoring.
Okay.
So OE4, OE10, and then
Mm-hmm.
3.
Yep.
OE3.
Okay.
So I keep a notes or a spreadsheet of summary of investigations that I
Okay.
have that I believe to be applicable to each of those respective monitoring reports.
Is that,
My complaints.
okay, is that like something you could put in as evidence or does it give too much information in there?
Probably too much information.
Okay.
It's also a document that I consider to be notes.
Okay,
So not
okay. Okay, okay, just a thought. I don't know what that evidence is, but just a thought maybe around what that is, but that's forward thinking to think if we have complaints in 3 different places, is it, are you saying that we shouldn't have them in 3 different monitoring reports or no? Okay, okay,
And different definitions.
Different reasons.
gotcha, okay. Okay, I was just like, are you saying that we have them in too many places or, okay,
I think of OE4 related to personnel.
gotcha,
It's
okay.
typically different type.
That makes sense.
Definitions differ in the monitoring reports.
Or you think it may be something about just like the date, like
Yeah.
average days to
Responded to.
respond?
Yes.
or-
Yes.
Without any,
I just, I would love to always take people's word for it, but I just feel like if we're gonna actually prove that it's supposed to be checking, that the board's work is to check that it's
I
happening, right?
believe
That,
the wording on the indicator is about that it follows the timeline, so
Yeah.
the date would make
Yep.
sense, because then it's following the policy about complaint.
yeah,
And which to submit a complaint, I'm not the only one who receives those.
He's not a total complaint.
As part of this.
but if I maybe had just a real narrow
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
yes,
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
Yep.
received, responded,
Yep.
resolved kind of thing.
So we are, as a director team, we're taking time on Monday, the 15th, to really dig into some of our indicators, and this would be a good time for us to talk about that with like Diana, because I know she often gets, is a part of this too, so.
my only other thing was you, in your presentation, and I think in the summary report too, there was a lot of potential explorations, right? But there's not really that in the action plan. There's no action plan for that,
For what? I'm sorry.
right? Because unless I'm missing it, which could be very true, because it goes into the appendix and it says update to the action plan from improve, but it wasn't like, that was something you didn't even mention. You just said it was completed, right? But there's no like, we're gonna explore you
What
say
page-
it.
What page are you on?
I'm on
Sorry.
13, because 14 and 15 are the appendix.
Yep.
Right? And the rest are the appendix. Does that make sense? You said it in your presentation and it's in the
Yeah.
summary report?
I know we talked about this when we were going through
Okay.
that, because the way, when I inherited these reports, they were always like the action plan was given related
below?
to the indicators instead of at the end
Okay.
of the report. So it could be a situation of that. Let me just see if I can find it.
And that is something.
So if I
actually-
look at like the,
Yeah, so
Wait.
page 3.
yep,
um,
and 9 has one too.
Yep, so
Okay.
3 has a next year action plan. But yeah, so that was another thing that's kind of
Okay.
on our tax list for Monday.
No, don't be sorry.
Well,
Actually,
could
we
totally
wouldn't mind
miss
some
this. Okay.
feedback on this, because we are working through a report that was written a different way than some of the other reports. And so we are proposing to have it look like the other
Yes.
reports, bring the action plan to the bottom of to the very end of the report.
To me,
before
it
the
called it out.
appendices.
Yeah.
But that,
Yeah.
that's just,
And we talked about doing that now, but then we thought, well, if you were comparing last year's for this year side by side,
totally.
last year you would see the action plan and then you wouldn't see the up, so, but yes, we agree.
I was like, I feel like, and I was like, I know the appendix was really long and I'm like, maybe I'm just missing
Yeah,
it,
no.
but okay. That makes sense to me. Okay.
Similar next year.
Other questions for Kathy?
You have me, with that question, you kind of have me thinking about the capacity building part of it. And so, for example, with the change that you guys went through, in adding Parent Square, would that have been an example of your capacity building because we're changing this, we're spending this
Yeah,
to accomplish this?
that would be. So what I think you're saying, Sue, I'm just checking for understanding,
Mhm.
is like the other board reports, making sure we have a section for capacity building and trying to forecast forward what we think we might need. So
Yep.
an example could be if records request goes skyrockets right now, it could be capacity building, we need staffing for that. So, or, you know,
Monitor open
yeah,
records.
was it last year, Parent Square implementation cost of, that would have been a good example to put in there.
Well, and the why,
Yeah.
why we're wanting to make the change and the improvement. This is, we're looking for this and this product will do that.
Yep,
Um,
that's a good thought.
shoot, I lost my next. Oh, and then, because some of them then too with the capacity building, will very much highlight the important things to keep. Some of them are just way too much. It, it labels every single thing. But, capacity building, maintain this, continue to fund this, or we need to do this. We need money for this in the future. It just kind of, yeah.
Oh, you're good. That makes sense.
My question was when you talked about changing the survey and which it sounds like it's old anyway, it might be time, and reducing the number of questions. Have you looked at yet what you would lose? And would we not lose anything because we're not using it? Are we asking?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't looked at doing anything at this point, but I was just, as I was, preparing for this and looking at evidence and the indicators that it asks specifically for, I'm reporting on specific questions that relate to organizational culture. And so if there are other, I mean, they all feel important. That's why they're on there. So we certainly, and we maybe get actionable information from those surveys that we respond to that aren't part of the board report. So we don't certainly want to give, just cut them just to hope more people will answer a shorter survey. But it was just something I was wondering about, and I think we'd need to ask a lot of questions before we
Just gonna
really
say,
overhaul the survey because it is such a valuable tool. But it was just something I was wondering, if we're only reporting and the board's monitoring this specific group of questions, let's really think about those, what else is included and if it's giving us what we're wanting and needing.
and to do that work, we will engage with some parent groups, some staff groups, because when it was changed in whatever year that was, it was very intentional to incorporate teachers and staff in that to make sure that we had questions related to student learning. So we'll definitely want to have a process. I can't see this changing quickly, like it's going to take some time.
It's important.
Yeah, and you would want to make sure
It's
that,
not new stuff.
the questions being asked aren't applicable to another OE. So you have the ones you are very specifically looking at, but are the other questions utilized somewhere else, which again, it's 6 years, 7 years old, 8 years old now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just the idea that we're looking to potentially continuously improve on whatever we have. It's not, obviously, communication tools have changed significantly at that amount of time, but like finding out how they want to communicate and learning that information and You know, we've done that with Parent Square and find out,
Yeah.
you know, useful information that I think is going to be helpful in answering people's questions.
Yeah, and one thing that's certainly different today than it was when this survey was put in place is so many more are taking the surveys on a phone. And so, and even though this survey was adaptable to a phone, we know many were taking this one on a phone, but in its, you know, current design, the survey, it was designed 8 years ago, that maybe wasn't considered as a possibility. Like, we know it's set up in a way that people can take it on their phone, but are the questions written in a way? Are they too long? You know, all the different things we know about surveys. Attention
Well, and I
span.
think about too, like you think about what you said with like how you're asking the question of people responding to not wanting to be on the publish and do not
Right.
publish list. Are we asking the
Right.
questions in a way that people understand what the question is to
Right,
get
right.
what we want,
Right.
right? Like, do they, you know?
Right.
And maybe they don't, maybe there's not tweaking to it, but I think of it from that point of view too.
I noticed that the 4K survey has a better response rate. And you know, so I'm just thinking, are there things we can learn from that? And if we're going to evaluate the parent survey, I mean, I would hope that we would, again, coordinate with the 4K survey and maybe have them be part of the process so that we're, you know, consistent and we can learn from whatever is working well there. And it may just be the fact that in 4K, there's a lot more parent involvement anyway. I mean, so it could be that simple, but I would just think that, you know, that would be a good thing to start there and make sure we're including the 4K in the consideration. And I also wanted to just say I was really impressed to see that we're sending communication in 7 languages. Which is very cool. But that now that can be done by translations and very.
No, it is exciting.
Other questions for Kathy on OE3? Hearing none, if somebody would like to make a motion, make a motion on OE3.
Motion to approve the report as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Sue, you're on for summary statement.
Yep.
Do you feel like you captured all of the thoughts?
So it's really, you know, the key things we talked about was adding in the stuff in the records requests and that, you know, how that's working for us. The survey updates, changes, just the basic formatting of the report itself.
A little bit about complaints.
Oh, evidence. In the complaint.
Oh, yes, that is here. Yep.
Okay. Well, if you feel
And-
good. Anybody have anything that we didn't think we added? Okay. Hearing none, that brings us to item D, presentation and possible approval of board policy OE9, communicating with the public.
Welcome back. Okay, so similar to with OE3, I have a kind of a high level overview of OE9, which, as you know, talks about how Rebecca assures that the public is adequately informed about the condition and direction of the district. So those list the different indicators. There's some more with this one than in the previous one, but similar to OE9, all of the indicators, the benchmarks were met for this OE as well. Looking at some of I just pulled out some of the key evidence items. There was a lot more in the report that you can look at in more detail, but I just pulled out a few of them to share with you. 83% of our survey respondents either strongly agree or somewhat agree that they are satisfied with the communication that comes home from their child's school. And 84% of respondents also strongly agree or somewhat agree with the statement, the district keeps me informed on important issues. So related to a couple other things, this is always interesting to kind of look at because it's interesting how much engagement we get with our social media stories and celebrations. And so that really is a fun way. I don't know if you kind of follow some of the back and forth. I mean, it just really, it's almost like a place where the community gathers. It's just really fun to see the people kind of really engage with some of those things. So I shared some graphs with you that compare the visits and follows for our district Facebook and Instagram accounts for the current year as it compares to the same time period last year. And then I just kind of give a quick definition because it's kind of confusing when you talk about visits and follows and likes and engagement and blah, blah, blah. So visits reflects the number of people, number of times people kind of land on our pages or on our different stories, whether they interact with it or not, or even if they follow our specific pages. Whereas follows is when someone in the community has deliberately said, I like the stuff you're putting out there. I want to see it all the time. So sometimes we'll have people who visit a story that maybe they see that maybe a family member had shared it or engaged with it, and then it appears in someone else's feed. So the first graphs there show the metrics related to Facebook. So our visits were up 33.8% and our number of followers increased 55.5%. We're now at 5,000, roughly 5,600 followers on our district Facebook page. Instagram is still growing. That's, lagging a bit behind Facebook, but it is a place where some people like to find our content. Our visits are up 55.7% and our follows up 88.5% over the past year. So we're just under 1,000 followers of our Instagram account. And then these are some additional ways, in addition to our social media accounts, that we engage and communicate with the public, not just our families, but certainly those in our school district community who aren't staff members, who aren't parents of our learners. Norski Nation News, that's kind of a single page digital newsletter that goes out twice a month. New this year, we've added a standing kind of item in the corner that talks about our district goals. And so one of the directors each time is kind of speaking to kind of how things are going on a specific related to the pillars, learning excellence, staff excellence, etc. So that digital newsletter, it's shared on our social media pages. The buildings also include it as a link in their school newsletters. And then we also have, and we've been trying to push this more, we have 300 community members who have subscribed and received this by email. So all of our families get it twice a month. And then there are 300 people who aren't directly connected with our district that have chosen to get this information. So definitely proud about that we have, some people that are, we know that twice a month they're getting that information, not only about, our important district initiatives and where we are on our goals and objectives, but, things about our musicals and our school plays and, again, some of our celebrations and storytelling. The annual report is a way that we certainly share our points of pride and celebrate and report on the work of the district. Rebecca sends out, I would say, at least quarterly. We actually just sent one out today. Communications with all of our families, just kind of like an update, sharing things like the results from the family survey, kind of calling out some of the specific results, letting them know where they can learn more. Similarly, when the state report cards come out, that's an item that she includes in one of her updates, things like that. The one that was sent today was related to, again, kind of celebrating, wrapping up the school year, kind of some save the date information about, even though we're just ending, we've got Great Start conferences coming up in August and when freshman orientation is. I know. So, just so families can kind of pencil those in. They get too busy with summer. We talked about our family engagement survey. That summary goes on our website. And like I mentioned, it is shared in one of Rebecca's family messages. We've got our podcast, Norski News Now, that we've been doing twice a month. It's just kind of another opportunity that we've been looking at. Is that a way that, sometimes the topics that Rebecca covers aren't ones that necessarily lend themselves easily to a newsletter. So, sometimes having a conversation or bringing in a guest to her podcast is a way that we've been exploring as another avenue of connecting. We did a postcard this year that promoted the engagement sessions that we offered. And then hopefully last week, all of you received this 4-page mailer. This was something that we haven't done in a while. And so just kind of took it as an opportunity to, share some points of pride, kind of give a summary for the year. Again, to share where they can continue to learn more about the district. There's an opportunity that we included in here if they want to subscribe to this twice a month newsletter. Again, hoping that we can just continue to drive the engagement, especially, we're always thinking about the people who aren't directly connected with our district. It's so important that they recognize that we welcome them as part of Norski Nation and want them to feel engaged and welcomed in our school community as well. And then you brought this up, Linda. One of the indicators is related to how we communicate emergency and safety notices, including translating the messages. So previously, we worked really hard that in addition to English, we would have things translated into Spanish and Hmong for our families. And it was hard to do sometimes. It was easier if we knew there was a newsletter that was going out on Friday or something that was going to go out next Wednesday where we had that lead time, because then you think it had to be written even that much earlier that we could get it to our multilingual team to get it translated and ready to go. But we know that even though we would put things at the bottom of all of our emails in those 2 additional languages, if you need help understanding this, to reach out, we know that we could do better. And we know that our multilingual families were missing things. We tried, in addition to those footers on our emails, to also encourage teachers, particularly if they had multilingual students in their classroom, to always include their building multilingual staff member on any communication they'd send home. Because sometimes, a family would get that. It would say, call if you need this translated. And it wouldn't be very helpful if the multilingual staff member didn't know what it was that had been said. So we've tried really hard to connect and engage with our multilingual families, but we're really, really grateful that Parent Square allows families not only to receive in the language of their choosing, and we were surprised to see that it's way more than just Spanish and Hmong. I mean, look at that. We have 7 additional languages to English that our families are getting communication in. I mean, I just feel like that's just really powerful. And so not only are we sending things to them in their preferred language, but also what's really nice is families are able to communicate right with their teachers in that language as well. So a family who maybe speaks Ukrainian can message their child's teacher in Ukrainian. The teacher sees it in English, responds in English, and the family sees it in Ukrainian. And it just, it's led to some really just sweet and heartwarming anecdotal stories where, teachers, food service, staff members have been able to connect and build relationships with our multilingual families in ways that they just haven't before. In addition to that, we know that oftentimes our multilingual staff have had to be translators, where oftentimes they're pulled in to translate because we're not communicating, we previously hadn't been communicating their language. So one of the many benefits that we've noticed from Parent Square is our multilingual staff can do more teaching because they aren't having to be pulled away to be doing translating. So that's just been just feels like a great, just welcoming opportunity that we now have for our families. That next slide is really interesting as well. So again, because families can choose how they receive information, whereas we previously just sent everything by email and hope they didn't bounce back, hope they opened them. We can see how families are choosing to receive their communication. It feels the same on the staff end. You know, we send it out. We don't necessarily know how family, I mean, we can dig in and see how they're receiving it, but it's interesting to see that, you know, a lot of people like to get the communication by text. That's the highest one. And then again, just a little more detailed metrics in terms of how families are choosing to get their communication. And one thing that we're still working on, and this is just, I think it's getting better every month, even as the year has gone on, and I know it'll continue into the fall as well. Like one thing that's been interesting is, you know, we tell families you can choose how you want to get the information. You can choose to get it by email. You can choose to get it by text message. If you download the app, you can get it as a notification. And they can choose, do you want to get it as soon as it's sent, or do you want to get it as a digest at 6 o'clock and just get everything that's sent by all your kids' teachers at once? But I think my wondering is, because we hear some families say, I'm just getting too much. It just feels like too much. Well, as I talk to them and ask some questions and try to understand, oftentimes those families who are saying that are getting all the communications all 3 ways. So they're getting the same message 3 times. And so we're still kids there.
Right. Yeah, right. A lot of messages.
We'll get there. And I think another thing that I've learned is a lot of families, you know, they'll maybe choose to get them by email or the app notification, but they all seem to also always choose text messages as well. And I think that's because previously we only used texting when there was an emergency or a school closure. And so we're working really hard to continue putting the message out there that if there's an emergency, if there's a school closing, you're going to get it all the ways, regardless of what you've told us, how you want to receive communication. So
we'll override it.
Yeah. So we'll get there. And we can even do phone calls if, you know, if it rose to the level of that. So we're getting there, but
I want to say something about Parent Square before we move on, just so that the board also knows that it's really setting us up for success as the new legislation has come out about staff to student communication, that staff cannot be using their cell phones to talk, to communicate with kids. And Parent Square, Student Square has completely set us up for success. And now many districts are trying to get this going really fast, and we're a year in. So super thankful that Kathy somehow got us ahead of there. So, but again, it's going to be a heavy lift of everybody to make sure we're using it.
Very cool.
So moving towards the things we talked about doing and reporting back. So, you know, one thing, again, talking about the importance of connecting with those community members, just kind of curious, wondering how do people want to hear from us? And so this spring, we did a short survey trying to target the people who, again, aren't family members, aren't staff members. So I reached out to some various community organizations, Chamber of Commerce, the Lions Club, the Rotary, the Library Board, you know, just places where maybe we knew other community members were engaged. And I asked if they wouldn't mind sending out this short survey for people to complete if they weren't a parent, a guardian, or a staff member. So we sent some questions to that group. And then we also sent the survey to the people that already subscribe to this, okay? Because those are, you know, 300 people that have chosen to get this. What are they wanting to both learn about, and if, is there a different way or additional ways that they would like to get that information? So not a ton of responses. We got 33 to the, people involved in various community organizations, and 18 of the subscribers to the digital newsletter. And you can kind of see, what's interesting. When I asked what they're most interested in learning about, both groups were pretty consistent that they're most interested in kind of knowing, the logistics of the district. So, and, we spend a lot of time on district operations and the budgets and initiatives, but it was just interesting, when we think we assume what people want to know. And then when you ask, sometimes the responses are surprising. Similar to for both of those. And then the next question on slide 17, it gets specifically wondering how do you want to be informed about things going on in the school district? And they were
a little sad.
Yeah,
podcast.
they were sad.
But also, there are times when you have to realize, like, maybe we let that go and do something else, like.
Yeah, and so we
more
did.
on digital newsletters.
Yes, and so, and they were able to, and these even made it even a little sadder, because they didn't have to pick just one. They could have picked a couple, and they still chose that.
Yeah, we need to listen to.
It absolutely, really what we did, so that group got their survey first, and so then when we sent it out to the other group, we also then added short video updates, and that did get some engagement as well. So as much as, and it is important to listen to. So we actually are going to sunset the podcast. Maybe it'll be
responses.
No, I know, but it was just.
Someone's gonna clamor for it, and then we're gonna have to.
Our fans are gonna be, demanding it, but this was just kind of interesting, right? Just to find out, we want to engage with you. What would you like that engagement to look like? And not only what you want it to look like, what do you want the content to be? So looking ahead to the upcoming year, we're back at the farmers market. It opened this week for the first time. So one thing we're looking forward to doing this year is trying to feature some different topics and maybe guests at the farmers market that then we could kind of promote as like, come meet, whoever this week. Because it is interesting, and those those of you who have been at the farmers market, it's just kind of a nice way to connect with people. They're generally in a good mood. They maybe don't necessarily expect to see you there. They sometimes walk past, but then they'll come back and they say, I've got a question about this or that. And we have certainly, we've gotten some substitute teachers that way. We definitely have had new families join our district based on interactions at the farmers market. We get a lot of questions. We're able to, promote different events, answer questions about Parent Square, just kind of meeting them right where they are. So we'll continue to do the farmers market. So show up or let me know if you want to join us. It's really pretty. It's fun Tuesday afternoons. So we're also looking at finding a way to expand our key communicators group, maybe similar to the survey and maybe reworking and refreshing the survey. We're just kind of feeling like the key communicators group is ready for something similar. So just trying to find a way to include more voices and maybe look at some different ways to participate. And I think sometimes it'll be more topical, maybe not necessarily the regular meetings, but as things come up where we know we want to add some additional parent and key communicator voices to things that we're looking into. One thing that we're looking into possibly doing next year, based on the popularity of the book study we did last year, is doing another one, and maybe looking at how we can kind of help, the community learn about the school district in all the different ways. Through a book study and then some presentations and learning and capacity building and understanding about how we do things here. And then one thing we're curious about too, and we're gonna do this through like just a short survey, probably mostly connecting with people at the farmer's market, is just kind of finding out from people, hey, did you see this? You know, what did you think about this? Do you like to get information this way? Because you know, the worry is always that it's gonna be, you know, well, how much did you spend on sending this? You know, but also not knowing that some people, this is what they're looking for. So trying to find that sweet spot of the various platforms, the frequency and the content, how to connect. And then a really big project that we're continuing to work on is, and you're probably familiar, I think we've kind of sprinkled some learning in on for you along the way as it relates to website accessibility and the law that's currently in place. But we have until a year, well, 2 years from this spring to be in fully compliance with the law. So we're doing a lot of work on our website, doing a lot of things related to, you know, handbooks, policies, you know, how they need to appear digitally to make sure that screen readers can engage with them, you know, have to look at like color contrast, all sorts of things. So we're doing a lot of learning with our staff, you know, just kind of, again, baby steps, like especially like with Parent Square, instead of maybe attaching a PDF or a link that doesn't translate or can't be read by a screen reader, just to paste it into a post that we know is accessible to our community. So
Yeah, because it really is a big shift away from using PDFs and as many links.
right.
Using it differently.
Yeah, because a PDF oftentimes is viewed as an image, and so screen readers can't read what's an image. So we're learning. So, but it can be very overwhelming. So we're kind of picking those quick wins, especially for our staff. You know, adding alt text when they post pictures, things like that. So we'll get there.
All right, so for that reason, we have marked the report as in compliance because the metrics have been met.
Thank you.
Brings us to accepting the report, if somebody would care to make that motion.
I'll make the motion that we accept the report.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we now own and can ask questions. A lot of information.
Yes, it's important.
It's very important. Just a simple question. I'm wondering if you're planning to take copies of the mailer to the farmer's market.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So that would be, in case people were new and didn't, yeah. So that's another use for it.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then just the other thing I wanted to say is, I'm not sure if it fits here, but the fact that we have the ongoing, revolving art display at Cornerstone, which reminds people,
Yes.
I think is very cool. So when
Yes.
anybody who goes in there sees, I don't know how often they
Yeah.
change it.
Yes, it's once a month. I should have included that. That is
Very cool.
so fun when there's always a card group. There's usually a card group when I go to swap out the art each month. And they are always so excited to see, you know, well, what school is it this month? So, we have such incredible art talent in our district.
We do.
Across, I mean, elementary through high school. And so it is really nice.
It's a visible
Yeah.
link between the schools and the community center there.
Thank you for mentioning that. I should have included it. That is
Cool.
It's really good to see how Parent Square and different avenues and things that the district's done has really opened up that communication piece, not only with families and also community members. I really like the fact that the district is really trying to maximize Parent Square to get the best use for the district. That's awesome.
I like that it's also a layer of support, or I shouldn't say support, but protection for students and staff in a way to communicate with each other still, but in a appropriate manner. I wonder if that's layered into athletics and activities
Yes.
too?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. In fact, Nate and Kathy just met with coaches a couple weeks ago and went through what's coming as far as
Yeah.
the expectations are really, really high
Yep.
for getting this right. And making sure that parent square, student square is used
Yep.
solely
Yep.
as the back and forth.
And one thing that we, you know, in addition to that, one thing that we've learned is that because, you know, our students in grades 7 through 12, the student version is called Student Square. So similar to when teachers like at the high school are messaging families are oftentimes including the students too. Some things they just send to students, some to families, some to both. Well, previously, if teachers were using, and certainly this was the case with athletics and activities, all sorts of various additional apps. For families who maybe wanted to take students' phones as a consequence for whatever, but we essentially had turned their kids' phones into a device that they needed to connect with their teachers and coaches. It didn't feel very supportive of what our families were maybe trying to do. So now, and also not all, you know, not all of our students have smartphones that even could have all those various apps. So we were leaving some students out anyway. But because Student Square is on all Chromebooks, we're able to push that out. Parents can take the phones if they want to, and kids can still connect with their coaches and teachers on their Chromebook. So.
That's another benefit.
A big benefit, yeah, especially as we implement tighter
Yeah.
restrictions on personal communication devices.
I had two questions on a couple of indicators. One was indicator 6. I wonder if there needs to be a more clear definition or elaborate on what notices we're sending out. So that
Give
it's,
us to a page number. Sorry.
well,
That's really helpful.
yeah.
Being safety notice.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, what is that, right? Is that communication when something happens at a school? Is that, you know, like what can a parent or community member expect to be communicated about? Like
Yeah.
clearly define what that falls under, right? And I think that would help
It would help out.
the district be like, when does it get to a level where everybody needs to know?
Or
An individual school needs to know, an individual class, an individual parent, like, I just wonder if that maybe needs to be more clearly defined, if that would help, right? And maybe get at more what we're looking for too.
So are you thinking, both defining what and when,
Yes.
as well as
Like,
the evidence then
fall
would
into that?
be what rose
mean,
to those levels?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
and
Yep.
there will still be a level of probably ambiguity
Yeah,
through that.
absolutely.
But we can try to get it more clear
Some
for people.
Yeah.
criteria for,
Mhm.
And that same token, I look at indicator 8, and I wonder if that's really applicable when we say special committees and task forces. If it's more applicable to now put in the new, like, we have to have XYZ with the new law to be accessible.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really do a whole lot of special committees or task forces. If it would be like more, as that law changes, then we have to have platforms that are accessible in all these ways,
Yeah,
and that would be.
I think this, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, but to me, indicator 8 is talking about accessible, they can find it. Like if there is a committee that does work, how is it shared
Gotcha.
versus accessible to someone who maybe is visually impaired?
Accessible.
Okay, but
I get it.
I'll look at that a little more closely. Thank you for bringing that up.
So many indicators on here too. I know that's something as we work as a district to build coherence about what are we actually focused on, that sometimes I wonder about, this might not be the one, but you're likely going to see some recommendations from directors of like focusing in more.
Well, if you look
even.
at like indicator 1, that has almost identical information to what we just saw in OE3, right? And so
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
repetitiveness, like,
Yes,
We don't need
that's a
to-
good.
right?
Yeah.
Like what,
Yes.
do we need that in both? Is
It's
that,
already
right.
being monitored.
okay, yeah,
Somewhere, and that happens across several
right,
reports.
yeah,
where
I'm sure.
I think we're at a spot now as a director team where we're like, I think we can even build more coherence about what's the most important stuff that we need as a district? And some of these are great, but we're gonna do them anyway. So I think we need to hone in a little bit more.
Getting back to the whole accessibility requirements and the law, is that, it's obviously a heavy lift. Is there someone who's leading that? Is that you as a whole at the district level? or is
Yeah,
that-
and also Russ, our director of technology, he's been great. There's gonna be a Norski Tech Camp this summer for staff, where we're gonna be, offering information as it relates to this, but it's really helpful. Yeah, so and Sarah Krisky and I, as well as Russ, we kind of have regular, meetings to kind of make sure, almost like with a checklist that we're checking things, because it's important. I mean, districts have, can get an Office of Civil Rights complaint. If
I guess, what kind of resources do do you have the resources you need? Do you this, when you talk about capacity building, right? This is
Yeah.
clear, into, it seems like something that.
Yeah, I'm grateful that, that the state professional organization, the schools, Public Relations Association, has offered a lot of professional development, like every workshop, every state conference always is having someone, so it's kind of like, especially as that compliance date gets closer. There are a lot of good resources, like some audits you can run, some accessibility checkers you can run on your website. So thankfully, we don't have to go back in time, to fix things. But it also has been, we've been able to do some good work that needed to be done anyway, that of course we want it to be accessible, but also our website isn't meant to be kind of like a place to house everything. So it's nice we don't have to go back and fix things, but also going forward, just being really, mindful and choosy in putting the most important stuff on the website that our community needs and making that accessible.
I think, Brian, I'm trying to interpret where you're going with this, and I think Kathy, we will spend more time as a director team talking through as the work unfolds, continues to unfold, because it's already unfolded. If we need more resources to help, when you get to that spot that you're now literally needing people power to make the things do what it needs to do, probably should get that reflected in a capacity building section of the report, because it would be about a year from now that then we're in crunch time. So we have a year then to get it done. Is that kind of what you're leading us to, maybe? Is that this would be an opportunity to reflect that if we need some short-term help or to get the work done?
Yeah, that's kind of what I think.
Okay.
Both that and is there a clear owner of this project? Is it Kathy or is it Russ, for instance? Because they kind of could fit in both. And
Yeah. I would say that if anyone in the district would ask who's the owner of accessibility on the website, it would be Kathy. And then she knows she has the partnership
Yes,
of
we-
Russ and Sarah, right? That's, good question.
When you just mentioned the tech camp, I was thinking about Russ's presentation about AI as well. And I'm thinking, do we need, I don't know if it belongs any place in this set of indicators or something about the fact that responses that go to families are coming from people that they're not using AI. I don't know if that's like a disclaimer. I mean, a disclaimer. I mean, I don't know. That just occurred to me.
Yeah.
It's just something to.
I think it's important, you're bringing up a
feel
good
like I've
point
heard
for
this
all of
somewhere.
us to think about how does AI
also,
feed in.
right? When
Yeah.
Russ came, they talked about I think he mentioned that it's best practice to identify whether AI
Yes,
is human, but you always
yeah.
human, then AI, then human.
Correct.
Before it goes to AI. So you've got the human initiating the AI and then checking that it's correct.
I'm just wondering at some point, do we want to make that statement?
And how does that play out in a
In our-
monitoring report or get reflected as something we expect or measure?
I can appreciate all of the groups that we communicate with. And I like how we're asking people how they want to be communicated with. Part of me worries that that sample was extremely small. And I know you're not changing
Right,
like
right.
drastically what we're doing, but that was like a really small sample of what we're asking people. I guess I can just appreciate that we're checking in on the effectiveness of the stuff that we're doing, whether it be, you know, through the podcast or whether it be, you know, the 300 groups that you guys are a part of, right? And like, how effective is that from a communication standpoint? Like how often you need to go, how often the district needs to be represented, like, yeah, because your capacity is what it is, right? There's only one of you, right? And there's a lot of different avenues to reach people. And so I appreciate that we're evaluating that. I would just take maybe those 33 responses as a grain of salt.
As a-
Like it's just a portion
Right,
of
right.
people that we're asking. Because I oftentimes wonder, like, what are we communicating and who are we communicating with? And then I often ask the question, like, who are we missing, right?
Sure.
Who are we missing and what information are they not getting? That's, and I don't know if there's no crystal ball that says, let's do this. So that I just can appreciate that we're trying new things and really checking in on the effectiveness of things that we're doing. Because is it worth the time? Is it worth the effort? If there's other things that we could be trying.
It's probably worth it to do another mailer in the future. I don't know when exactly, but, and then include something, would you give us feedback on the mailer, right?
I mean, because I look at like the
QR code.
list and it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, not only all the groups, but I look at like how we disseminate information and the majority of that information is written, whether it comes in email form or text form or, so then I'm like, are we missing that? Or is that the mark that we're wanting to hit? Because I think of like the generation below us is very digital tech savvy and it's like videos and podcasts and very short blips. Maybe we are hitting the mark. I just
TikTok.
yeah. Yes, start creating TikTok videos. Moving on from the podcast.
So that just triggered, so how do we accommodate people who are hard of hearing or deaf now in terms of getting information? I mean, if they have, they can obviously read things, but if they have questions and want to talk to somebody, do we have a way to do that?
I think there's an accessibility thing on the website, like it's like a person.
Like you can have things, they have extensions where it can be read to them, read aloud. Oh, no, but you said they were deaf. That wouldn't be helpful.
So we do have availability to get a sign, right? And we do that, we do that regularly when we need
When-
that. So
right.
it's very rare, but
But
that is
when-
one of the things.
And there's some kind of like deaf relay system where somebody, you can go through a number,
Yes,
right?
if Diana was here, she'd be able to talk us through all that.
Right. That just, occurred to me when you were talking about.
Yep.
But again, as we have to be accessible,
To everyone,
we'll be
yeah.
addressing. it.
Other questions for Kathy? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the report.
I move that the report be approved as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
You have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kathy. That brings us to input for the summary statement.
Working backwards a little bit here, we had the appreciation of evaluating what we're doing and consider the results. Question on the ownership and where that lies. That's the shorthand.
Capacity building.
Yeah.
around-
Yes. That-
I think there were a couple indicators. to
In
look at,
the,
too.
so indicator 6 and indicator 8, you know, we've said that indicator 1 is already OE3. Do we need the duplication? And the capacity building.
I think you captured well.
I think I did a really good job.
You did do it. Good job.
You
Okay.
did.
All right, thank you. All right, that brings us to item F, consideration and possible approval of the 26-27 collective bargaining agreement with DAEA. So I think Nate is going to come up.
Yes, Nate is going to join us to talk us through all of the different components.
Yeah, so I have 6 consecutive items, but don't you worry, they're all related, all very similar, and information that's already been presented to the board. So the first item F is the approval of the collective bargaining agreement with DAEA. So we've been meeting with that group throughout the spring. And DAEA ratified the proposed CBA last month for a 0% increase on total base wages. And that's what we're seeking approval for.
Any questions for Nate? Hearing none.
And I'll make a motion to approve the 26-27 collective bargaining agreement as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, do you want a roll call or do you want me to just do a voice vote?
Right, that we need to do a
I
roll
need-
call. Let's
okay,
do a roll
roll
call.
Okay.
Lovick,
Yes.
Sar,
Yes.
Coker,
Yes.
Lenhart,
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Esser.
Abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nate. I think that brings us to item G.
So G is consideration and possible approval of supplemental pay for our DASD certified staff members for the upcoming school year. And we are recommending an increase of 2.63% on all cells. 2.63 is a number you're going to hear throughout the next few groups as well. That is the CPI for the year. We're also recommending progression through our framework, so utilizing the existing compensation structures that we have in place.
Can you, before we make a motion, can you explain maybe what in depth, a little more in depth, what CPI means or what it is?
Yeah, so the CPI, Consumer Price Index, is established by the Department of Revenue, announced by the WERC on a month-to-month basis, and we use the July of 2026, so for the collective bargaining agreements that are basically July to June. And it's a benchmark established by our lawmakers for compensation for public employees. So you'll see very similar recommendations across the state based on, again, our lawmakers defining that as a benchmark. It also helps us stay in compliance with OE4 in the sense that we have a pretty good idea of what our neighbors are. Again, our goal is to remain within 5% of our Dane County peers. So all of these recommendations are with the intent of keeping us in line with that operating expectation in OE4.
Thank you.
And one additional point of clarification, this is part of the assumptions that Kathy Davis uses for her budget for the next year.
Correct. All of this falls within the budget that's been presented.
Any other questions for Nate? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion on item G.
I move approval of the supplemental pay for certified staff members for 2026.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor, you want another roll call?
Sure. Lovick,
Yes.
Sar,
Yes.
Coker,
Yes.
Lenhart.
Yes.
Lewis,
Yes.
Esser.
Abstain.
I don't like it when you go out of order.
I know. No, it's very confusing for all of us.
Okay, sorry, we're going to item H. I just had to say that.
Just to shake things.
Item H, sorry.
All right,
Yes,
next
support
group are
staff.
Support staff employees, they also operate on a wage schedule or compensation structure. We are recommending the increase of each cell on the support staff wage schedule by 2.63% in the addition of progression through that wage schedule. Now, we're also adding a service milestone component. So it's a nominal element, but in response to feedback we've received, a way to incentivize and reward longevity in the district.
Need a motion, or does anybody have any questions for Nate? No. Would anybody care to make a motion on item H?
Are we doing this in two parters? I move, we advance, and then advancing all eligible employees on the staff wage, you know what I'm saying? It was being spelled out. Is that how
Yeah,
we're?
it's spelled out in the minutes. You can say as presented in
Yeah.
the motion.
Okay, as presented. I move we do it.
Are you
Approval of the
speaking?
compensation.
I mean, no. Yeah, big words that you're coming out of your mouth.
We talked about that though, in terms of clarity.
For the presentation.
And so that's when I'm
Yes, that's
looking
true. Mhm.
at that. I'm
Yes.
like, how much of this are we?
Appreciate that. Yes.
Okay,
Okay, I heard what you said and
Thank you.
So we have a motion.
yes, thank you.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. That brings us to item I.
Is our district-wide hourly support staff employees. So these are employees who are hourly but do not fall on that support staff wage schedule. We're recommending a 3.63% increase for this group. So to offer an increase that's similar to what our larger support staff group gets. We're also recommending 5 marked adjustments for individuals within this group.
So Nate, can you give an example of maybe some employees that would fall into this district hourly group?
Sure. Registrar, payroll clerk, administrative assistant at the district level, data specialist.
Any questions for Nate? Entertain a motion on item I.
Motion to approve the presented increase to district-wide hourly administrative support, including 5 market adjustments.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
That's a lot easier than the
Roll call vote, please.
Okay. Lewis,
Yes.
Lovick,
Yes.
Sar,
Yes.
Coker, Lenhart,
Yes.
Esser.
Yes.
That brings us to item J.
J is another smaller employee group, the district-wide salaried supervisor, specialist coordinators, and deans. This is an employee group. They aren't necessarily administrators. They don't have an administrative contract. They're also not certified staff. So these would be like your benefits specialist, your special ed coordinator, custodial supervisor. And we're recommending a 2.63% increase for every returning employee in this group.
Questions for Nate on this group? Do they have a framework for this
They
group?
do not.
Do not, okay. Okay. Just a question. Okay. I would, if there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion on item J.
I'll make a motion to approve compensation increase for eligible district-wide supervisors, specialists, coordinators, and deans for the 26-27 school year as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconds.
Okay.
Roll call.
Okay. Lewis,
Yes.
Lovick,
Yes.
Sar,
Yes.
Coker,
Yes.
Lenhart,
Yes.
Esser.
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to item K, consideration and possible approval of compensation of administrators.
This is our last group, and similarly, we're recommending a 2.63% increase for all returning administrators. This includes the superintendent in that group. We're also recommending 6 individual market adjustments.
Do you have any questions for Nate on item K? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the recommended salary increase of 2.63% for all administrators, including 6 individual market adjustments as outlined above.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second.
Lewis,
Yes.
Lovick,
Yes.
Sar,
Yes.
Coker,
Yes.
Lenhart.
Yes.
Esser.
Yes.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to item 8, board education on website accessibility requirements. And that is gonna
Okay,
be-
I'm turning it over to Anne. She's done a lot of research on this. Yeah.
So this is website, I didn't finish that, website accessibility as it relates to board packets and public information versus what Kathy was working
Everything.
on. Yes.
And so, you heard Kathy describe what our upcoming requirements are going to be. Knowing that our board packets are on the website, accessible for the public, I knew that there was going to need to be some changes since all your attachments are PDFs. The current platform that we have now called Board Docs is actually transitioning to a company called Diligent. So a change was going to have to happen anyway. So I reached out to multiple different platforms, vendors who offer board packet platforms. And one that stood out in my reaching out was called schoolboard.net. What I really appreciated about them was their customer service. They are very responsive. They have created a public site for us. This is of no charge. This is what a potentially accessible board page would look like. Okay, so it's very plain, right? The gone are a lot of the pretty stuff, but this will be what would your page would look like. Rebecca, if you go to where it says regular meeting April 13th, click on that. They took our meeting from April 13th, our board packet as it was on the website, and created an accessible version for you so that you can see. Also did that free of charge. So you can see what the agenda would look like. You can keep scrolling. This is called an accordion style agenda. So you can click on, keep going down. Why don't you board education on OE5 and OE7 right there.
Okay.
Okay, so then you see how it says read presentation of district food service program? That's what's going to help with the accessibility. This is how that table would have to look. So there's formatting changes that are going to need to happen. Okay. What I like about schoolboard.net is they are very clearly wanting to be partners with us in helping us get there, in helping us with the formats. What I really want us to look at is what a monitoring report is going to look like.
Down.
If you want to
7.
scroll back down, scroll down to 7. No, yes, right there. So if you want to open our 4.
This one?
Yeah. Okay.
This version
So
of it.
this is what a monitoring report in an accessible version would end up looking like. So our intention here.
Because the charts look very
The
different.
charts are, everything is very simple.
Right.
And that's intentional. So there will need to be, to the point of capacity building, there's going to need to be some help, I think, for directors in creating a format for their monitoring reports that is going to work in this scenario. So the main purpose for tonight was to showcase what this could look like. Schoolboard.net is what my recommendation would be, along with Kathy and Russ. We've sat in several different meetings with one of the developers there at schoolboard.net. Another great factor about them is they're about half the price. They're about half the price as Board Docs was. But again, it was the customer service that really sold me, and the willingness to partner with us, and the forward thinking. They had already been thinking about these accessibility requirements, and that their format was going to have to be in HTML, where some of the other vendors that I spoke to haven't developed a plan yet on what that would look like. So I just wanted you to all be aware of that. Another thing that will be a little bit different and we'll have to navigate is our presentations, our Google Slides that we put in the packet. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that and in an accessible format. We may have less actually be available on the website for the public, but watching the meetings, we're streaming them, they'll see presentations that way. So there are some changes coming, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. Should we choose to go forward, we're going to talk a little bit more with the team about this, but if we go forward with schoolboard.net, in my mind, I think it could happen fairly quickly that we can go to this format. Probably beginning of August or so in that work session. I would like to be able to sort of, train you all on how to use this. Now, this next year, since we have until 2028, this next year, we probably would still be using PDFs on this platform. So you'd see the accordion style agenda, but there would still be PDFs, just like there has been. That gives us this year to create those new formats for monitoring reports, to figure out what are the things that are going to need to change, what things can we use, and what things won't we be able to. But this will be a change for the public too. They're used to seeing, charts and graphs and pretty reports and pictures. And so some of that is going to need to change. And I just wanted to give you the heads up on that. So that would be my goal, is that if we could transition at the beginning of train you all, beginning of August, and the first packet that we would use this format would probably be the end of August. Our contract with Board Docs is done at the end of September. And we would preserve, all of the data that we have gotten through Board Docs. We will have a CSV file of all of that. So we would have that, all the past information from that, but then we would not choose to renew Board Docs. One other piece is our Neola policies. We've did some conversation with Neola, and they will be like a standalone. So there's an opportunity there on that website to still link to our Neola policies outside of Board Docs. The one other thing, Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind going back up to the top of the page, they have an accessibility statement right there. Can you see it there? If you want to click on that. I just thought this was really great information, and you can scroll down. It talks a little bit about their commitment to it, which I thought was really impressive, and the measures that they're taking and how they will help us. And so I think that's important for the public to see when they're wondering, well, why can't we have all the, graphs and the charts and all of the things that we used to have? So.
We're still getting all the same information.
Yeah,
It's just presented differently.
It will be presented differently, and it may not all be able to be in the packet on the website.
Gotcha.
That same way.
I like the simplicity of it, and I can appreciate that, and I also appreciate taking the time to figure out the best way to do that. Like, we also know the capacity of the directors is, this is not something we necessarily want to tax them with very quickly. So I can appreciate taking the time to be able to get it right and format it in a way that the board can understand the reports, and that it makes sense for them.
Which is another, to Rebecca's point about our directors meeting on June 15th, sort of maybe focusing in on indicators and sort of maybe paring down a little bit would also help. This is another reason. It kind of all aligns together, I think.
Yeah, it allows us to look at, you guys to look at the reports a little bit more in
Like,
depth.
what's the most important stuff to be measuring?
Yep.
There's a lot of metrics.
Yep.
Right.
So will it do like links?
No.
Because
That's what we
the links need to go
from,
away
right?
from for an accessibility reason. Okay.
Yes. So really, it'll be when I'm creating a board packet,
Yep.
I'll have like a text box, and then I'm copying and pasting into the text box.
That's gonna be so interesting, because I know a lot of our, the evidence is often screenshots of things and links to documents, links to agendas that we've had.
Right.
Or screenshots. So I don't, I have to figure that out, what that would look like. Got 2 years.
Yeah.
Rivers of time.
Time. Yes.
Now we have to start.
Definitely look perplexed.
I just appreciate that we're delving, we gotta figure this out. We have 2 years to get it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's.
You have thoughts? No? No?
You don't like it? I don't, I.
You don't have an opinion yet?
Yeah.
I think it's the idea of the changing of the format and the way that we receive the data now and how that's going to change. So it's like, when I'm looking at it and thinking at it, okay, that's just for the website stuff.
It's not necessarily how we would,
You may still receive emailed information, you may,
Presentations could be given.
presentations can be given. Yeah, right. I mean,
It's the website.
there's, yes, it's really
Just the
the
website.
content that's on the website. And I mean, it may be that, a public member would need to request a presentation that we weren't able to put on the website that's, accessible. So I know that's tricky, but hopefully the understanding the why and having advanced, notice that this is, the changes are going to need to come. But also we'll have a year to figure out some of that too. And there might be, who knows?
Some of the things where you have like a graph, but you also have some sort of text describing the graph.
That's exactly right. That's
What about like
exactly
what
right.
we just received as far as like a student presentation night with the FFA, they use Google Slides, that wouldn't be
Yeah,
accessible.
No, that wouldn't be.
That wouldn't be able to be on the website.
No, yeah, wouldn't be able to be on the website. Doesn't mean we can't do it, we can still have the presentation here in the board meeting and, that's
And
being
people can watch.
recorded and streamed, yep, so they can.
I just
they
wonder
can
too,
watch
like,
that.
it'll be interesting to track that from an open records request, like,
yeah.
does that change and increase the workload for that? How do you
Yeah.
manage that?
So it'll be kind of on us to think creatively
Yeah.
Right.
and think about how to.
Well, I know,
present
like,
the information.
wasn't it some Prairie that like pre-recorded their, like, almost like our presentations, like that we get, like our little Google Slides that we get before them, they pre-record that, so like
That
you
could be
could
something.
post that like on
Exactly.
our.
Yeah, because then it
Live
has closed captioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
those are-
that's
I mean,
a really
just
good
thinking
solution.
creatively, like,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily,
Right,
I
but
mean,
it is.
YouTube
that is an
videos
option.
for you
Yeah.
guys.
Right.
TikTok.
So I was like,
that what Chris-
School board
that
that.
is for like smaller districts, charter schools, like smaller districts. As our district grows, will they be able to have the capacity to handle what we need?
So
That's a really good
And
question.
like additional security requirements that we may be required to.
Right, so we bring in Russ into all of the conversations, so that he's keeping an eye on that sort of thing too. This is the platform, so I don't think that the platform has to be accessible. So as far as like, as we grow, I don't know that that's gonna change. I think it's still gonna have to be that we don't use PDFs and that sort of thing. I did talk to him about, customer service and how often, he said, typically, he said, once we get everything up and going, you get the bill from us once a year and you don't need us a lot, but we are always here. So I feel pretty confident that they will change with us, especially the fact that he created a site for us and has not charged us, has told us we can use it, practice with it, makes me feel like they sincerely want to give us a good product. Mhm.
Well, and they were kind of forward thinking in the accessibility. of
That-
where
and
the
they-
others
and
were.
I had to, they were the only ones. The
Yeah,
other
that's
ones
crazy.
were saying, some had said they heard, this was the first time they heard of the accessibility requirements. So, I mean, that was kind of scary. So, I mean, so this one, and yes, you're right, it's not, seems to be smaller districts. It's from California. Another option was Board Book. They're out of Texas. And I know like WASB is kind of starting to move towards Board Book. So that is another option. I didn't have as good a luck with customer services as I had with schoolboard.net. So that's why I'm.
And I think the ability for them to create something, if we ever needed changes.
Yes,
I just wanna
exactly.
make sure that they're able to accommodate.
Yes, absolutely.
'cause
Yeah, that's a really
otherwise
good.
we-
Yeah, you don't want to have to switch again, we don't want to have. to
Yeah, you
switch again.
contracted in for a certain, like a
1
year,
year.
a year. Not that you want to continue to
Right.
change, you
No,
want that
no, right,
consistency, but yeah,
exactly.
if something were to really go awry.
Right, exactly. Oh, right, yeah, you're just tied in for 1 year. So. Does that help?
More.
We look forward for more learning.
More to come.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, That brings us to public input, which I have none. Brings us to board consent agenda. Would somebody care to make a motion on that?
Move approval of board consent agenda.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That brings us to superintendent consent agenda. Would somebody care to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent's consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Uh,
All right, that brings us to press verification. Do we have a new guy, girl?
Contact.
No? Okay. I just thought I'd ask.
He's been using the streaming ability.
Oh, that's
He has
good.
so many districts he
Good
covers,
to hear.
so.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, thank you. That brings us to board debrief and meeting. Excuse me. This month we're focusing on monitoring board performance. So our job description. So I just have one question. If you want to answer, feel free. Like, did we stay focused on governance, policy, and outcomes? Yes, no, mixed.
I'm kind of going.
Okay, you're a mixed. Okay, you want to elaborate?
And with the idea of not directing staff, going back to some of the questions that we ask at times. Have you tried this? Did you do this? Have you thought of this? And I'm trying to, I don't know if I remember any specific instances from tonight. Sometimes it feels that way with the questions that were asked when we ask them that way. So I'm trying to think back if I have any specific examples from tonight.
Good point.
My notes.
I like it. Anything else?
I would say yes.
Yes,
That we stayed focused.
Okay, what made you feel that way? That's what happens.
That's what.
Okay, okay. Anything else?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Did we stay focused on governance, policy,
And
and outcomes?
Thank you.
yes.
Okay. Yes, she's next. Okay. If there's no other discussion, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move adjournment of the meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.